Okay, so this is mainly for video purposes, but it's also a live stream, so people may come in and have questions, and I'll try to answer the questions that they, that they're having. But in the meantime, we're just going to go to Google and YouTube. I think those are the two most searched places. So if we were to go to Google and type in Golf Clash. What's going on, Tot? Okay, so we got Golf Clash. What would we put after that to get the most frequently asked questions? Let's say, I know I could just put FAQ, but let's say how to. Okay, look at that right there. So right off the bat, what's up, TC Marshall? Anyone in the chat, I'm not playing any games today or anything like that. I was just going to make a video about how to, like for frequently asked questions. Any questions at all, I would like to, try to answer them for you. So if there is any questions live, obviously for newer players, let me know. And I'll try to help you out as best as I can. In the meantime, while the room populates a little bit, I don't expect that many people. I'll just go through what Google's saying. What's up, Geek Army? Board PC guy, Sandy Bell, I Can Swim 70, TC Marshall, and my boy Tot. Take 7, no shades. Nope. What's up, Felix, a.k.a. James? Tot has a question. I got one, RJ. How can I win gold and not fall on my face? Practice, I guess, would be the best one. What's going on, Mark Adder? All right, so I'm just jotting a few of these down. We get how to, yeah, Steve. I mean, it's a stream, so I mean, yeah, you could ask me anything you want. I'll answer any question. It's actually supposed to be a Golf Clash related in terms of the video, but I don't care. I'll answer whatever questions you want. I want it to be entertaining, so get promoted, how to get apocalypse cards, how to play with friends, how to adjust for wind, and how to invite to a clan. All right, so let me open up the app real quick here. What's going on, Kevin R? Good to see you. Elevation adjustments last tournament killed me. Me too, TC Marshall. I know. How am I going to answer questions when, the same thing killed me? I do have a basic knowledge of it. Obviously, there was about 50 people above me, but I did make it to the weekend. I know there's a lot of people who didn't even make it to the weekend. And then, of course, here we go. We're going to have issues with the app. It should have just loaded up. I don't know why it didn't. It's only because it's live. I remember as a kid watching on live TV, whenever there was a mistake, that was the first thing they would say is, it's live. That would be their excuse. So now I get to use that excuse. Let's try to restart the app and get these questions answered. And I'll show you. And while we're waiting, let's see here. Okay, I'm going to write down elevation. That's a good question. TC Marshall. Here we go. Okay, question. When the next sardine feasts during... Why is it not just open? It's a simple request. There you go. Okay. When is the next sardine feast during a Golf Clash stream? That was quite an event. Oh, God, the things I punished myself for bets or whatnot. What's going on, Jonathan Tush? We're just having questions and answers. Joseph K., how to resolve issues with the app. Very true. It's because it's live, right? Jameer, what's going on, man? Matt Fisher, how do you know if it's 20% and not 30% elevation? I can tell you how to adjust, but in terms of, I actually, you know what? I'm going to write that down because I kind of have a bit of an answer to that, but not a huge one. Mark Adder, that's a really good question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the chat here because we got some good questions. Let me get the first ones going, and then I'm going to scroll down and look for questions. That's what we're going to do today. So if you came in to watch Friendlies or watch me play, I'm sorry to disappoint, but this is just basically I want to answer everyone's questions, that I can. So the first one is how to get promoted. So the first thing we're going to do is, I believe, no, that's not where we go. And it's been so long since I've had this question. There we go, the arrow. Duh. Okay, so we got the promotion zone and the relegation zone. I'm an expert 3, for example. So, the season just started, so having 0 isn't a big deal. But basically, to get promoted, usually you got to come in the top 25, top 15. I think it gets higher the higher up you go. So all you got to do is, the more money you win, the more you play. So you don't necessarily have to be a top player. Like I'm in Tour 9. I'm in Tour 10, but I don't have enough money to play Tour 10 at the moment. So I'm playing Tour 9. There could be someone in Tour 6. If they play more games and accumulate more money than me, they get promoted. So that's how you get promoted. The next one is, how do you get Apocalypse cards? Everybody wants Apocalypse cards. But the problem is they're not popular because they're epic, and epic cards are the least popular cards to come to you. But in order to start winning Apocalypse cards, you need to be playing in the tour where it would be. And I don't even have this plugged in. I just heard the sound come from my computer. There we go. So, okay, so if we were going to play a game, Apocalypse cards, you have to be playing at least Tour 7. It's a tour, it unlocks at Tour 7. So you get Apocalypse cards whether you're playing Tour 7 or any club afterward. If you're on Tour 6, you can't get Apocalypse cards. I think most of the people in the chat know this, but this is, this is one of the most searched questions on Google. So we answered that one. We answered that one. How do you play with friends? Okay, you get to the main screen, and then you hit the play golf button. Oh my God, that was so loud. Let me turn that down real quick. And then I'm going to go through and answer questions as well in the chat. Thank you guys who are joining me live. But see, it says play 1v1. If you scroll all the way over to the right, you get play with friends. Now, this account is not connected to Facebook, but you have to connect your account to Facebook, and then a list of your friends will come up, and you challenge them. So it's that simple. I'll show one more time. You just hit play golf, and then automatically it'll say play 1v1. All you do is scroll over and click on play with friends. So that answers that question. 3 more quick questions, and then we'll go to the comments. How do you adjust for wind? Okay. Different clubs have different, this is brief, I actually have a video on this, but different clubs have different accuracies. So let's go to my club bag. You'll see kind of like how I set things up in my bag anyway. And if you have a, let's say 50 accuracy, then it's going to be 2 miles per hour for 1 ring. So if I have an 8 mile an hour wind, it's 4 rings with the extra mile. See, the extra mile is very close to 50%. That's how I gauge it. That's how you should as a beginner. Then I also only have 2 types of clubs. All my clubs are either really close to 100% accuracy or really close to 50. So the only numbers I have to remember is for my 50, just like the Saturn is about 50. 66, actually, that's not a very good example. The Thorn, right around 50. These are, I know all these clubs here are 2 rings per, 2 miles per hour per 1 ring. But then we have the Sniper, that's 100. 100 accuracy, so it's just 1 ring per mile an hour. So if I got an 8 mile an hour wind with my extra mile, I'm moving it 4 rings. If I got an 8 mile an hour wind with my Sniper, I'm moving it 8 rings. It's because the target is smaller. If the target's bigger, the wind doesn't care how big your target is. It's still going to affect the ball the same way. So, I get a lot of people asking me that question, like, hey, RJ, why why do you have to move 100% accuracy club more than the less accurate club? And the reason is because the target is so much smaller. You're actually moving both targets the same exact amount. It's just because it's smaller, it's going to seem like more, especially when you zoom in. So that's how you adjust for wind. Plus, I have a video on wind adjustments for beginners. Next is, how do you invite to a clan? This is a pretty tough one, but I'm already in a clan, so I don't know that I can actually do this. But the way that I do it in my clan is, you want to be friends with the people on Facebook who you want in your clan, and if you challenge them to a one-on-one match, then once you challenge them, you'll be able to click on their name when you're in the game playing a friendly match. Or if you're playing a complete stranger, and let's say he's kicking your butt and you want him in your clan, click on his name and then you'll see a button that says invite to clan. So, and when I say click on the name, just like his icon, just like that right up there, but while you're in the game. I'm obviously not in the game, so I can't show that. The next question is elevation. Now, the way this question was asked, and this was asked by T.C. Marshall. He said, oh no, not T.C. Marshall, I'm sorry. What was the, someone had mentioned, I want to give credit where credit's due. Here it is, Matt Fisher. I'm sorry, it's Matt Fisher. Of course, I just lost where it was. But anyway, Matt Fisher said, there it is, how do you know if it's 20% and not 30% elevation? Honestly, I asked this same exact question to Tommy before we went live one time. And Tommy had told me that he just takes a shot knowing that it's downhill, and when he goes back and looks at the footage, he'll notice that, where he expected the ball to land and where the ball actually landed, had it been a straight plane surface, he noticed that it's 3 rings over. And if it's with a 100 accuracy club, if it's 3 rings over, well, it must have been around 30%. So it's not something I know how to do. Luckily, when Tommy puts out his guides, when Jesse puts out his guides, all these guys put out their guides, they do that hard work for you. But when you come across it on the tours, it still applies. So if you're playing a 1v1 game, you're still going to have 35% elevation, whether it's in a tournament or not in a tournament, unless Playdemic comes out and changes it. So that's elevation. I'm going to go through the chat now real quick and see if anyone else had any other question. Mark Adder says, how do you figure out how many rings to use on a given shot when it's not 1-to-1? That's a really good question right there as well. So here's the thing. If it's not 1-to-1, I'm assuming like what you mean is, let's see, like if you get like a 7.5 mile an hour wind, we could do this with an extra mile, and we can also do this with sniper is 1-to-1. But let's take the extra mile because it's 50. Now, when I pick out my clubs, why don't I use Thor's hammer? Unless I'm sitting here in front of my computers and actually have the app pulled up that shows all the different, what do you call it? It shows all the different, like how many rings to adjust, a little chart from golfclashnotebook.io. But it's 64 accuracy for Thor's hammer. Because that's too far in the middle between 50 and 100, you can't just do 2 or 1. You really got to do math. You got to like either be used to it and just know it by heart, or you got to be really good at fractions and math to figure out what 7 miles per hour for Thor's hammer is. But me personally, with the extra mile, 7 miles per hour is easy because it's 2 miles per hour per ring. So 2, 4, 6 miles an hour is 3 rings. Then I would go 1.5 ring more would make 7. So 3.5 is 7. 3 3/4 would be 7.5. If it is 1-to-1, well then, if it's 7.5 miles an hour and you're using, say, the quarterback, which has 100 accuracy, well then it's 7.5 rings. But really, again, like I said, the target sizes are bigger and smaller. So with the smaller target size, the wind is still blowing just as hard. So a small target needs to go from here to here. It doesn't seem like, it seems like a whole lot. Now, but if the target's this big and it needs to go from here, it still needs to go from here to here. You see what I'm saying? Like, do you I hope you guys are understanding this. I'm not looking at the chat live. But if you have something the size of your fist that needs to move from one side of my camera to the other, it looks like I'm moving it a decent amount. But if the target is my whole body, well, now it looks like we're not even moving it nearly as much. But really, we're moving it the same amount. It's just the target sizes are different. So let's see. Let's go through here. RJ, how about when the rings go into a bunker? Excellent question, Joseph K. I was told, and it's worked for me great so far, it's just an illusion, and the rings stay the same. So sometimes there's a bunker, sometimes there's a cliff, sometimes it's just weird rough, and you'll notice like part of your rings look normal and the other part kind of droop. It almost looks like someone's on acid or something like that, and it's just all droopy and everything. It doesn't matter. The rings do not change. So if you're moving your target through the rough and all of a sudden it starts elongating, don't let that, don't feel like, okay, well now this feels like it's about a ring. No. 6 rings, 6 miles an hour, even if they're all long and funky, you still move it to whatever would be 6 rings or 8 rings or however much for the miles per hour. So when it gets all distorted, it does not affect anything. You still move it the full distance that needs to be moved. That was an excellent question, Joseph K. I wondered the same thing. What's up, Christopher Koff? Matt Fisher was happy with that answer. And if you're not happy with an answer that I give, throw it back to me, and I'll try to get more in depth, or in depth with it. Maybe the way I read it isn't the way that you meant it. So, Patrick Hoffman, what is the little percentage number on the left-hand side of the screen? I know exactly what you're talking about, and what that is, it's when you're using a special ball. So, the Marlin, for example, has a wind resistance 1 and a side spin 1. Well, side spin and power is not really going to show up as a percentage. I'm not sure what it is by heart, but I think you get what do you get, like 15% for 1 wind resistance. I think it's 35% for a wind resistance 3 ball, and I know for a fact for a wind resistance 5 ball, which can only be purchased for real money at this point, it's 55%. And that's what it is. So if the wind was, here, let me find one. The eyeball is a 5 wind resistance ball. Let's say I'm playing on Tour 12. I've never touched Tour 12, but let's just say it. And I got an 18 mile an hour wind, right? Well, if I choose this eyeball, now it's going to say 55% on the left-hand side of the screen. And my opponent, let's say my opponent is playing with a basic ball, which has no adjustment. He's going to have to adjust the full 18 miles an hour. So 18 rings if it's a 100 accuracy, or 9 rings if it's an extra mile. But you, using a wind resistance ball, if we take 18, we cut it in half, 9 miles an hour, now we're adjusting half. So can you see how if you're taking your adjustment and you need to move 18 rings, you know how many times you got to slide your screen back? First of all, it's a lot more time consuming, but second of all, there's so much more time or place for errors, because you got to reset up your screen, move it again, reset up your screen, move it again, so on and so forth. But if I'm just adjusting for 9 rings, sometimes if you adjust right, you can slide past the take shot button and fit all 9 rings in one adjustment. Who's going to be more accurate? The guy adjusting for 18 miles an hour or the guy adjusting for 9? So, excellent question there, Patrick Hoffman. And let me just scroll up here. And there it is. Sandy, it's pretty warm out today, RJ. Yeah, I think we might have hit 70 again today. I've been shadow banned from Facebook. Can't even make an account. It automatically deletes it. Oh, that's not Golf Clash related, and it's actually not even a question. So that does suck, though, Ricky Rick. Yeah, they do seem to have a bias. What's up, Randy Stibb? Good to see you, buddy. Greg Wiseman, good to see you. Skippy Alley Cats, up, RJ. Just thought I'd stop by and show off my new bling. I'm assuming Skippy Alley Cats, is that San Diego Steve, or is that actually you, James? I'm not 100% sure. Sandy Bell says, RJ, in the mini tournament, are the trophies going to be the same? I'm not 100% sure, but if we go and take a look at it, it certainly looks the same. We hit play golf, and then we're going to go to the qualifying round. And maybe it only shows it one time. But it did show the banners previously, and they looked identical. On the website, it showed the banners. We won't know for sure. If this was the first time I was opening it on here, we would know for sure. But when I saw it, the banners looked identical. So let's see here. What's going on, Monty Kaufman? Greg Wiseman, I almost missed that. I'm glad I looked back up. Says elevation is an estimate and then adjust afterwards. I'm not sure if that's a question or but how you put that. But elevation is an estimate. There is no actual tool out there that I know of that says, you know, this is a 35% adjustment. But like I said, you know, from what Tommy told me, if you play it like it's a flat course and you put your quarterback out there, which has 100 accuracy, and you adjust for the wind perfectly, and you notice your ball still bounces 3 rings over, well then, you know, from where it originally was supposed to, and you pay attention to the direction the wind was blowing in, well then that might be a 30% adjustment if you have like a 10-mile-an-hour wind. You know, so there is some math to figure out. Man, they put a lot of time in that. But I still get the elevation from the pros. That's a little above my pay grade. But a good question. Hey, RJ, you sound much happier now. It's all good. Yeah, thanks, Terrence Cook. This tournament was hard on me. It really was. KC Fan Man, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Louis Marquise, I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, RJ. I need some advice. I'm already in Tour 7, but my extra mile is still level 5. It's taking forever to get the cards for it. What should I do? Lewis, you are really good at this game if you're taking an extra mile 5 into Tour 7. The one thing I would tell you for sure to do is save your gems. Now, this account is a bad example because I've spent money on this account. That's why I got over 11 or almost 11,500 gems. But if I didn't buy any, I'd probably still have at least 5,000 gems. And what you're going to have to do is play with a Titan ball. A lot of people in Tour 7 probably play more so with, you'll see a few Marlins, but I think it's mainly Quasars, maybe a couple Navigators mixed in. But if you play with a Titan, it's going to give you power 3. So that's really going to help you. And then a perfect shot's going to be super important. And make sure you bring an accurate, well, not so much accurate. Actually, make sure you bring a wood that has a lot of backspin, like the Guardian, because that'll help you a ton in the shootouts. But I believe you can make it through Tour 7 with an extra mile 5, especially if you got there. You got there on your own, you can keep going. Do not be intimidated whatsoever. Nothing changes from Tour 6 to Tour 7. Yes, You are hitting from the second tee instead of the first tee, but elevation is the same. So if you understand the wind principles, it's not like you got to add 15% instead of 10% or anything like that. So great job having only an extra mile at level 5 and being in Tour 7. And just keep it up. Watch that bankroll, you know, because the higher you get up, the quicker you can go broke if you go on a losing streak. And that would be my advice to you. Is definitely bring a guardian, because I'm going to assume that you're a guardian or a viper, depending on how high your guardian is. I'm going to assume that your sniper is not better than a level 7, and I would say 8 would be the minimum I would want to bring in. Paul L. says, if not using an app, Golf Clash Notebook has good charts, graphs, and creators. I started with it before using apps. That's a great point. I'm sorry, I thought that was a question, but Paul L. brings that up. golfclashnotebook.io. I believe you go to Tools and then Wind, and you put in your actual clubs. So if I go there and create something, I'm going to put in extra mile, and then it'll say level 8. Sniper, level 10. If I had different levels, it would still tell me. If I had an extra mile level 5, a sniper level 3, you know, all these different club levels. So it's a very useful site, and they have no competition. Man, Ian McIntosh is a genius when it comes to that. He did great. So definitely agree with that. Let's see. If you go over, here says Element, XXX. If you go over like a precipice, I'm sorry, I don't know if that's a typo, or if you went over my head with your vocabulary. There is a huge effect into the wind, into the rings and or wind. If you go over like a precipice, I'm sorry, Element, can you reword that for me, buddy? What is the little square with the percentage on the top left? Okay, Christopher Cuddy, if you watch this video over, I explained it a little more in depth, but basically, just, you know, because you took the time out of your day to come and hang out at the stream, I just want to show you something real quick. Okay, so here we have, like, let's say I'm using a Kingmaker. The little percentage number, I'm assuming, is what you're talking about. The little percentage number, yeah, it says percentage, is the wind resistance. So I hate using the Kingmaker because I don't know if it's 30 or 35. So let's use the eyeball because it's a nice round number. Even though it's 55% wind resistance with a Wind 5 ball, we'll call it 50 just for the sake of math. So if you get a 10 mile an hour wind and your opponent's playing with the basic ball, he has to adjust for 10 miles an hour. That little percentage, the higher the wind resistance of the ball you're using, the less you have to adjust for. You don't have to pay attention to that percentage when taking your shot because all it's basically doing is telling you, hey, this ball knocks off 35%. The wind, you'll notice your win number is lower than his win number. So with your win number being lower than his win number, he still has to adjust for, if he's using a basic ball, 10 miles an hour of wind. In this example, you'd have to adjust for 4.5 miles per hour of wind, which is a far smaller adjustment, giving you a large advantage. So I hope that helped you out, Christopher Cuddy. What's going on, Hee-Ha Teeny? Stupido Roy. How do you adjust between max, mid, and min distance for a club, since there would be a difference in ring adjustments? This is a really good question as well, and it's not stupido. Oh my god, why does my brain rearrange the... I'm so sorry, Roy. Suddy Patel. I'll just call you Roy. Okay, so what a lot of people do that I would highly recommend is we take... There's nowhere for me to do this, unfortunately, to give you a visual. But what you do is you take your club that you're using and you push it up and you push it back. And there's going to be a red line when you get to the maximum distance. If you keep going, you'll go into the next club. and then there'll be a red line when you push it back to minimum distance. In between those two red lines, if you're hitting it and it's at the main red line right up top, it's going to be the max adjustment, which again, you can get on Golf Clash Notebook. You can get the little cheat sheet out, and leave it on your computer screen or whatever. If it's all the way at the bottom, it's going to be the minimum numbers, which is the numbers all the way over to the right hand on the numbers that they give you. However, if you got, let's just use my camera. If this is maximum and this is minimum, and right where my nose is, which is about right in the middle, that is where you need to take your shot from. There's also a mid adjustment, and that is mid, min, and max. Now, you want to be as close to one of these 3 points as possible, because if you're like here, then you gotta do the math yourself. Between mid, you're a little bit between mid and minimum distance. It gets a little harder. But if in order to make that adjustment, you could either go up to mid, and if you go up to mid, you could put backspin on it, or you could go down to minimum and put topspin on it, and then be a lot more confident in actually, in your rating, as opposed to putting it like in thirds or, quarters or whatever. So that would be the best way. I hope I answered your question there, Roy. Sorry for butchering your name. Awesome name, though, Roy. I like that. Probably because my name's Roy. Let's see here. RJ, how can I not continually be matched against clan presidents? Friendlies, I'm guessing? Let's see. All right, I got to redo this real quick because the chat just screws up quite a bit on OBS. Let's see. I hope I'm not Okay, yeah, there's the one that I just read. Coming on down. What's going on, Bethany Dawn? Just doing a question and answer session. A lot more people here than I expected. Thank you for joining us. Rich Lawson, what's going on, buddy? Okay, Jonathan Tesh. I know the answer to this, but some might not. How do you tell if it's minimum, mid, and maximum for allowing for the wind? Okay, that literally, I'm sure I answered your question, but I answered it for the person above you, Roy. But it's the same thing. Move your club up until you can't move it anymore. Until it, if it's a driver, then that's where you go into overpower, or until you can't move it anymore at the bottom. Now, this does not apply for 3 clubs. The minimum doesn't. For the wedge, because you can hit it that far. And same thing goes with a sand wedge and a rough iron. So aside from those 3 clubs, which I believe Tim Olson said they started a minimum of 25%. So when you're about 25%, that's minimum. And then 50% would be medium, and then 100% would be maximum. So great question, though, Jonathan Tesh. Thank you so much for asking. Skippy also brings up a great point. Extra mile cards are in Tour 2. Grind, baby. Okay, you can get more extra mile cards if you're grinding Tour 7 because you get more cards in a chest, I believe. However, he is right. And the one thing that is that you need to take into consideration is this. The extra mile you get in Tour 2. So, you're not going to get any Tour 3, Tour 4, Tour 5, Tour 6, or Tour 7 cards. So your chances of actually getting the extra mile in that chest is way higher. So he is right. Grind Tour 2. Play friendlies. Just play with your friends. You don't want those Tour 2 chests, pin chests. So when all your chest slots are filled up, play some friendlies. Go back and forth, however you want to do it. But he is absolutely right. Grind, baby, grind. Mike Edison says, I play on my phone and use my thumb for pulling back the ball. Thinking about going to the tablet. Any tips for using my index finger? Well, I have this monster of a tablet here, and this is actually supposed to be a monster of a phone, but side by side, this is the 7 Plus, and yes, I use my thumb here. And this is like almost a 10-inch screen, I believe. And I do play with the index finger. It's just more comfortable for me. Play some Friendlies would be my best advice. It's going to take you a day or two to get used to it, depending on how much you play in a day or two. I still haven't mastered it, and I've been playing with this for a couple months now, it feels. I'm pretty good when it comes to regular shots, but when it comes to overpowering or doing left curl, especially because you're coming across yourself, those are trouble spots for me. But, you know, in time, we'll get better at it. And when you get your tablet, don't do what I do. I stream only with a tablet. And then when I'm sitting in my bed or whatever, it's just convenient to use my phone. Always use the same device. That way you don't sometimes use your index finger, sometimes use your thumb. I think it's just better that way. What's going on, Eric Jennings? Good to see you. We got check your chip inbox. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Michael Bolton, awesome to see you as well. Monty Kaufman, RJ, how do you know what LSD does? No comment. That was a long time ago and a big mistake. Let's see here. I'm a thumb side player, says Golf Clash Frenzy. Yeah, I honestly, it just seems so much easier on smaller devices to use your thumb, but on bigger devices, I feel like you just, I don't know, I think Jesse has the same size tablet as me, and I think he said he used his thumb, but I could be mistaken on that. Lewis, thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate that. Let's see here. I'm doing good. Glenn, how are you? Hey, we got On the Screws Golf. Hammer and Hank, what's going on, man? Great hole you played against me the other evening with your eagle chip. Boom. We both ended up in the rough, man. But unfortunately for you, this guy was hanging out at my house. You are a very worthy opponent. I'm sure you're a much better player than me. I got lucky with that perfect. It was an honor to play you as well, though, Hank. Awesome, dude. How do you like the chicken? Crispy. Let's see here. I'm not sure if there's any more questions or just a hangout. Okay, Eric Jennings. I'm thinking of going to a tablet because of the notebook app overlay go away, so I'll need more screen to half the apps on the screen. That's going to be a tough one because the needle, the bigger the needle is, the easier. So if I'm cutting this screen in half, then I'm cutting the target zone for perfect in half as well. What I would recommend personally, Zach, I don't know what he titled the video or whatever, but I saw it and I've goofed around about it a little bit, but he was talking about putting tape on your phone or something like that. And it's actually not a horrible idea to, let's see, it's my daughter. Uh-oh. Okay, I might have to go with a phone call coming up. Not 100% sure. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to go out and get a screen protector that's cheap and easily removable and do exactly what he said. Now, personally, I don't only use my phone, for example, for Golf Clash, so I don't want a permanent piece of tape there or anything like that. But in terms of getting a screen protector and using whatever methods he uses to match them up and draw the line and everything, if you want the grid, that is, get a cheap screen protector. Why not? You're not getting it to protect the screen, and you're going to mark it up anyway. So that's what I would recommend instead of tape. But tape is a lot cheaper. So let's see here. Archer Matthew says, I have my mini account on my phone and my main on my iPad. How do I move it to my iPad? My phone is not connected to Facebook. I'm afraid of losing my mini account, and I would hate to lose 300 million coins. Archer Matthews. Okay. What you can do is you can connect your secure and recover. You see how this account is? I have it connected to Facebook. I also have it connected to my phone. And there's one third spot, there's a third spot there where I can also connect it to my email. So just because you're using Facebook for one and you don't want to connect it to Facebook, I'm assuming you only have one phone. So, you know, you got your one phone for your phone number, but you can create as many emails as you want for free. So as long as you can keep track of your emails, you can just set up a different email, attach it to that account by simply clicking add your email, and then it'll ask you what your email address is. It'll send the email to your email box. You'll confirm it, and now you can connect that account. You can connect to that account by both Facebook and email, and that thus meaning you can move your account over to other devices as easily as possible. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. RJ, I meant like if you shot that, like a shot that has to go over the cliff, the rings change massively because the wind affects the shot way more. Anytime you go over a cliff or a body of water, if it's flat, right? If it's flat, like we're not talking like a big elevation. If you're going over a cliff or a body of water, you automatically add 10%. I still feel like I'm not answering your question properly though, Element. But the rings don't really change massively. It's just 10% unless there's an elevation change. If there's a big elevation change, you know, Tommy covers elevation really good. There might be others out there, but Tommy looks like he's trying to cover every single hole that's out there. So I'm sure he has the information. Maybe golfclashnotebook.io has elevations as well. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, going over a big old cliff, man, it's, or you know, like I said, as long as your landing spot and your landing spot and where you're hitting the ball from are the same, then it's just 10%. You always go 10% for going over water. And I'm not talking a little stream, you know, I'm talking a decent sized body of water or, you know, over any type of cliff, 10%. And if you're in the lower levels, you know, like 2 or 4, 2 or 3, where you get like 5 mile an hour max winds, what's 10% of 5? It's half a ring, you know, so you're not going to be off that much unless you're trying to dial in a hole in one from, you know, from distance. Let's see here. Hey, what's going on, Ethan? Good to see you. Hey, Anthony Teacup. Kevin R. says, how do I get better at tournaments? Like, for the last tournament, I participated, or I practiced Tour 5 as much as I could and did good in that. Qualified with a -12, but when it came to the opening round, I fell apart. Me too, Kevin R. When I did my qualifying round in Expert on Wednesday, I got a -13. I was elated. I'm like, ooh, that's top 3, baby, if I could get a -26, you know, depending on the bracket I'm in. And, you know, as time went on, unfortunately, the opening round, I did okay. I made it to the weekend round, but then, you know, in the weekend round, if you saw my chest openings earlier, my best account, I got like a 45, and my worst account was like 80-something. It's really a mental game. Don't put that much pressure on yourself. It's really hard for me to give you advice with a straight face, though, because it happens to me. And I was just talking on the phone earlier with James today, and, you know, he said it happened to him, too. Sometimes we just get into funks, and the main thing about the funk is, I'm sorry, okay. Main thing about the funks is, you know, it's like a slump. You do eventually get out of a slump, and that's very important. So don't be so hard on yourself. Don't look at it as I need to win gold. Set a goal for yourself like I do. I want to come in the top 25. Because an Expert, if you come in the top 25, you get all your balls back. And you don't really get your balls back, but you get just as many balls as you use throughout, you know, the 3 days that you play for that account. Let's see here. Can I use the same Facebook account, says Archer Matthews. I know some people. Greg Bubsy, thank you so much for the $1 in the super chat. I appreciate you, bro. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my things set up for Crab Rave, Zombie, Baseball, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, so scrolling down, no, one Facebook account for one account. I wish it wasn't that way, but unfortunately it was. So you might want to use Facebook for one, a phone number for two, and then all the rest is going to be email. Now I'm going to lose my spot here for a moment, but I got to scroll back up. Let's see here. Back it up with the email. Okay, that's where I was. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, no, I did. RJ's Car Music, Junior. Awesome songs on your YouTube site. I ended up clicking on it. There was a day someone was advertising it, and I wasn't sure what it was. But yeah, a lot of bass, and I liked it a lot. Let's see. Okay. So he said, what do you think is the best short iron? I'm going to tie two questions in with this, because someone asked me this question while I was actually playing in the tournament, and unfortunately I got, you know, distracted and I didn't get to answer it, although this is my second time answering it because I went back to it the next day. The best short iron, in my opinion, is the Thorn, for a couple reasons. Number one, I love that it has right around 50% accuracy. 50% accuracy automatically equates to 2 miles per hour equals 1 ring. So it's easy to remember in your head. Like I showed you guys earlier, every club in my bag is set up for either it's a 1 mile per hour per ring or a 2 mile per hour ring. And, you know, it's just so easy to adjust the wind when they're nice round numbers like that. But another thing that I love about the Thorn, dunking is not nearly as hard as it looks. People assume it's hard because it's cool. You know, you love watching the ball get slam dunk into the hole. Wow, I just sprayed it. However, you can try to dunk all day long with the Thorn, unless you hit the flagpole, which happens like maybe 1 out of 30 or 40 times that you get super, super close. Your ball's going to hit the ground if it doesn't go in, and then it's going to roll back a little towards the pin, and you're going to have a really short putt. Someone asked me, why don't you use the Hornet? Wouldn't that be easier to dunk with? Yes, it would be easier to dunk with because it's got a smaller target. So maybe some of those great shots would actually go in. However, it only has like 2 or 3 bars of backspin, and if you miss the dunk and you don't have 100 backspin like you do on the Thorn, let's take a look at what my, okay, so see this Thorn here has 100 backspin and accuracy is 57. I just call it 50. But if we go here to the Hornet, way more accuracy, but only 52. So half the backspin means I could go off the green and into the rough, and it's not a short putt anymore if I miss. So it's not worth trying to dunk. So trying to do a Thorn dunk, if you get lucky, it's going to go in the hole, and you just took a stroke off your game. But if you don't get lucky and you miss, you still got a really easy putt. So that's my favorite short iron. Let's see here. I hope I'm not missing anyone's questions. Got like 2 things going on in my head here. I'm going to have to call my daughter shortly. Let's see. Copper Princess, what's up? Yeah, the pool of cards you get are better in 7. The only problem is, what is it? I think there's 4 rares that you can get in Tour 2. I'm assuming this is going back to the extra mile. But if you're playing in Tour 7, if there's 2 rares, that would be there'd be 14 rares instead of 4, so your chances of getting different rares are much higher than just grinding out, you know, Tour 2. But she is right. The pool of cards you get is greater. I play better on my index. With my index on an iPad Pro, says Power Stroke 6.7. I do the same thing with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S. Best putter. Good question. Let's see. What's going on, Robert? Robert E., good to see you. Michael Bolton has a tablet and uses his thumb. I wish I could master that. How do you hit the ball full overpower with full right curl? I feel like I would be all twisted up, moving my thumb over. I don't know. Let's see here. A stylus would be cool. I wonder if I could get used to a stylus. Ah, thanks, Hank. Michael Bolton says you can get your screen protector engraved with the grid lines at a trophy shop. All you need are the dimensions of the screen and the grid lines. So, I mean, again, if you're not spending much money, how much are they going to charge you at an engraving shop to put some grid lines in? That might be a good job, you know. That's a really good idea, Michael Bolton. And let's see here. I think we're getting down towards the bottom. Let's see. Jonathan Tesh says, let's just say you have the sniper. What is the minimum and maximum for adjusting for the wind? Sniper is very little. A lot of other clubs, like, okay, so with the Thorn is like 57. And I have a lot of luck doing this, but it doesn't match up with the numbers that are in Golf Clash Notebook. So with the Thorn, if I'm doing a Thorn dunk, and let's say okay, so if it's at max distance, it's 2 per ring, right? No elevation, just simple, easy, 2 per ring. But if I'm at medium distance, what I do is I do 3 per ring. And if I'm at minimum distance, I do 4 per ring. So again, I don't know why, but I love taking 8 miles an hour. If it's an 8 mile an hour wind at maximum distance, I do 2 per ring, which would be 4 rings. If it's at medium distance, I do 3 per ring, so it would be 2 1/3 rings, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 2 2/3 rings. And if it's at max or minimum distance for 8 miles an hour, then you only do 2 rings. Now, that does not jive with the actual numbers, and I would always take the actual numbers over, you know, this little system I came up with in my head. But the system I come up with in my head works very well. Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't. But as far as a sniper, honestly, man, a sniper at minimum distance, because it's 100 accuracy, it might be, if it's a 10 mile an hour wind, I mean, you can pull it up on Golf Clash Notebook to be sure, but I think there's just like a 1 mile per hour or 1 ring distance for like 10 miles per hour. It's not as big as you would think it would be. It's not like, you know, like you don't double it or triple it or anything like that. It's fractional. It's very, very small. So the sniper's a hard one. There's Greg Bubsy with the $1. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you, Sandy. Sniper level 10 is... Okay, yeah. See how Michael Bolton in the chat, he said it's 1 per ring at max, it's 1.1 at min, or mid, I'm guessing, and then 1.2 at min. So very, very little. Not much adjustment at all. And we're getting down towards the bottom here, so I wonder if that's going to be it. Any news on Apple products closing during play? I noticed that happened to Tommy, said Anthony Teacup. I haven't had any issues. I play with an iPhone 7 Plus, and that's pretty old. What do they got? Like the second generation X out there, but I'm sure it happens. I would assume it happens on Android as well. Let's see here. I think I'm getting really close to the bottom here. Roy says, what is your view on the upcoming 9-hole tournament? A new course, i.e. hole 6, par 5, have been added to Southern Pines. Yeah, I haven't played that particular one yet, that hole yet, but, I'm sure just like any other hole, there's a correct way to play it. Watch the big streamers, and, they'll show you, like, the best path to take, and, what clubs to bring. Maybe it's a big dog hole now, and it wasn't before. I seen it, but I didn't see it live. I just seen the picture. But I'm excited. I want to play. I wish the prizes were a little bit better. It looks like it's going to cost you more unless, like, you win the whole thing. But if you like tournaments like I do, we don't play for the prizes. We play because we're competitive. All right. Mullins does the same thing with the Thorn, and it works. Absolutely, bud. Glad someone else found that as well. Let's see. Oh, Michael Bolton said he sent me the prizes for the mini tourney. Yes, I saw the prizes, and I was very underwhelmed, but thank you very much. Like I said, I play just for the competitive spirit and to have something to stream for you guys. So that was, we did frequently asked questions, and I took a whole bunch of questions from the chat. I hope that that helped you guys, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. And this would be an excellent place where if you have more questions, in about a half hour, this will become a video. Post your questions down below, and once I get 10 or 20 or whatever, we'll do this again, and we'll I'll maybe I'll do this again sometime in the near future. But I'm definitely gearing up for this 9-hole tournament. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Let's see. Louis says, yeah, did some research, and there are just 3 rare clubs in Tour 2. So, yeah, okay. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a blast, and you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for the support. I can't believe we got 55. I seen we got up over 60 people a little while ago just for a simple Q&A. That's a lot more than I expected, so you guys rock. Any other questions, or like I said, if you're catching the replay, put it in the comments section down below. If you don't mind helping me out, hit the thumbs up button. And if you enjoy my streams, my tournament streams or whatever, make sure that bell icon is clicked and that you set notifications to always. And that way, when I go live, you'll know as soon as it happens. You guys have an awesome day. Take care. I should say night.